Hey everyone, it's Alexander, the real Mr. Robinson. Welcome to the channel, and this is my review for A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, which came out in 1988 and is one of the first movies to be directed by Renny Harlin, who would later go on to direct Die Hard 2, Cliffhanger, and Deep Blue Sea. The movie takes place 1 year after Dream Warriors, where Kristen, not played by Patricia Arquette, starts having dreams that Freddy's going to come back. And she tries to warn the other two survivors of the last movie, Joey and Kincaid, that Freddy's coming back, but of course her warnings go unheard because Kincaid eventually falls asleep and finds himself in the very junkyard where Freddy's remains have been buried. And he's also joined by his dog named Jason. And for whatever reason, I can't quite figure out why the dog is named Jason. What could possibly be the reason to name that dog Jason? Sarcasm aside, it's in this dream where Freddy Krueger officially comes back to life. And the way he comes back to life is by, and I am not making this up, Jason the dog pees fire, which opens up the earth, and specifically Krueger's grave, and Krueger animates himself back to life. Yeah, the second I saw that, I just went on Facebook and posted, "Did I just see a dog pee fire?" And one of my friends responded by saying, "Yes, you did." And yeah, that's how Freddy Krueger comes back to life in this movie. So Krueger is back, and he kills the remaining Elm Street kids, including Kristen, because, you know, we can't let the events of the last movie feel like a conclusive end or like they meant anything. But before Kristen is killed off, she transfers her power of pulling people into her dreams to one of her new friends, Alice. And Alice ends up becoming the hero of this movie and the next one. And with every person that Freddy kills throughout this movie, she ends up gaining their powers and thus becomes the Dream Master, hence the film's title. So last week I reviewed A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, and in that review I kind of compared it to Aliens, which that's not an uncommon comparison to make. And much like with Aliens, it has an unnecessary follow-up that kind of undoes everything that the previous movie did. If you remember my review for Alien 3, I have infamously said that that is my least favorite Alien movie, at least until Covenant came out, just by the sheer fact that it kills off all the characters from the last movie right at the start. And in a sense, Dream Master does the exact same thing. Hey, remember those characters that you really enjoyed in the last movie? Well, we're gonna kill them off right at the start. Although I gotta say, in defense of this movie, I don't think it's as offensive or as careless as with Alien 3. In this movie, we at least get to spend some time with these characters before they're killed off, and in Kristen's case, her presence is still felt throughout the entire movie because she eventually transfers her powers to Alice. But even then, to have the whole point of the third movie be, you are the last of the Elm Street kids and we can't let Freddy win, it is kind of a middle finger, I'll admit that. Especially since Kincaid and Joey's powers don't get transferred into Alice. They're almost like wet paper towels, just toss them to the side. And in Kristen's case, it's really hard to feel sad for her death because this isn't the same actress as before. Patricia Arquette didn't come back for this movie as Kristen because I think she wanted to try to focus on more mainstream stuff and not horror films. So instead she's replaced by Tuesday Knight, who I think does a good job all things considered, but where this movie fails Kristen is more in the writing than the actual actress. Because this doesn't even feel like the same character from the last movie. Like, completely different personality. And apparently Kristen was a smoker? Again, I've only seen Dream Warriors once, but I'm pretty sure I've never seen Kristen light a cigarette. So the main protagonist of this movie is Alice, played by Lisa Wilcox. She was never introduced in the previous movie, but for the sake of this story, she's our main protagonist, since, you know, Nancy's dead, Kristen's dead, and who knows what happened to Jesse. And I think Lisa Wilcox does a good job. Alice as a character is pretty much Kristen 2.0 in my opinion. And she's likable enough, and her friends, even though they're very one note, they're likable as well. And yeah, I just found myself rooting for her at the end of the day, because when it comes to horror movies, even if the characters are not too interesting, I try to find one person to root for, and Alice was that person. But that being said, with her being the Kristen of this movie, since, you know, Kristen got killed, you have to wonder, what was the point of killing Kristen off in the first place? I would have preferred if they didn't kill Kristen off, and maybe we could have had a Kristen-Alice team up against Freddy Krueger, but what can you do? And speaking of Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund still does as good a job as ever in the role. He's more cartoonish this time around than he was in the previous film, but he's still scary enough to where he doesn't come across as a complete cartoon. And some of the kills can be pretty creative. There's a scene involving one of Alice's friends who loves to work out, and while she's working out in the garage, Freddy Krueger basically takes over. Her elbows bend forward and her arms snap off, and then cockroach legs start crawling out, because another character trait is that she's terrified of insects. So she eventually becomes a cockroach, stuck in a tiny box that Freddy Krueger's holding, and Freddy Krueger just squishes the box. That's pretty creative right there, and if you're afraid of insects or enclosed spaces, I imagine that kill would be terrifying. But the movie has a buttload of problems, unfortunately. There's a lot of rules that are established in this movie that were never made clear in the previous films, and it mainly revolves around how Kristen's able to get these traits from her friends after Freddy kills them off. It's not really explained, and there's a lot of telling instead of showing, where they talk about their interests and a lot of their traits that Freddy exploits later on, but we don't really get to see them until Freddy actually starts exploiting them. It should also be noted that this movie was made during a writer's strike, so you can tell that the movie definitely has an underwritten feel. I'm not going to give it a pass, but I think it is worth noting that, yes, at the time this movie came out, there was a writer's strike, so what could you do? Other than that, I really don't have much else to say about Dream Master. At the end of the day, I don't think it's that bad. Despite its major problems like the script and the fact that it kind of makes the ending of Dream Warriors invalid, I thought this movie was entertaining at the end of the day. I would say watch at your own risk. You'll be amused throughout, and I can't see anyone being bored in this movie. Alice is a fun character. Robert Englund is still as great as ever as Freddy Krueger. It's got some cool kills, and it's got some interesting direction from Renny Harlin. There's a lot that this movie has going for it. I just don't see it as very necessary. It's entertaining, but pointless. And there you go. That's my review for A Nightmare on Elm Street for The Dream Master. I'll be back on Friday with my review for the fifth movie, The Dream Child, which I gotta say right now is the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie that I look at and go, ugh. But we'll wait till Friday. Right now, I want to know what you guys think about The Dream Master. If you've seen it, what did you think? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there is only one. Hello everyone, I just want to say thank you all for watching my review for A Nightmare on Elm Street for The Dream Master. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, go check out my Twitch channel, and support me on Patreon. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day and take care of yourselves.